You've clicked on a difficult issue, specifically about the lack of respect you sense for your husband and the childish behavior that you believe he displays towards you and the rest of the family by him not working and instead playing video games most of the day. This is a tough issue and a growing issue that we see show up in our couples intensive programs throughout the year. I find that it's one of the saddest issues for women because deeply in their hearts they want to be in love with a man or deeply committed to a man that they feel respect for. And really, I think that most men would say that at their core they want to be respected as well. It's just that oftentimes what they do to gain respect or what they're doing in their regular everyday activities actually has the opposite effect. A lack of respect often results from unmet expectations. Many times people get married with unspoken expectations, and it's not until months and years of marriage that goes by that these expectations are not met and you start to lose hope that things will change. That's when disappointment sets in. If the disappointment is there for long periods of time, it has a way of turning into bitterness, and that's when it becomes very dangerous for the life of the couple. One of the things that you have to be really clear on is that even though you don't sense respect for your husband, there's probably a part in you that have looked for ways to change his behavior. You might have escalated, you might have whined, you might have done a number of different things to try to get him to get out and hold a steady job. But in the end, if you continue down this path, you will only be perceived and experienced as being controlling as opposed to caring. And when people feel controlled, most people will shut down. And it doesn't matter what they want, if they even want to be respected in the end. If they're feeling controlled, they will shut down. And then the future of the relationship is deteriorating and is on dire straits. So if what I'm saying is true, which I do believe it is true, the only person that you can actually control is yourself, this begs for you to take inventory of your own behavior. First of all, I would ask, number one, are you acting respectful towards your husband? Now, this is very different than does he deserve your respect? What I'm asking you, are you acting in a way that you can respect yourself? This is key, because no matter what he does in the end, if you do not act respectful and you are not a person that you can respect, there will always be a sense of conflict deep within you. The next thing that you can focus in on is being caring and understanding about the differences within your expectations. Have you really sat down with your husband and talked about the differences of your expectations without judging and without personalizing? What we find is judgment and personalizing will shut the conversation down very quickly. As opposed to, if you're being really curious about what's going on for your husband, what is the history? What is the concern about getting a full-time steady job? Could it be about failure? Could it be about not measuring up? There's a number of things. Frankly, he could have even been given a message that he has adopted as the truth, that he will never amount to anything, and has carried that with him for all this time, and you have no idea that that is impacting the way he approaches his career or lack of career. So I would encourage you to be very curious about what's going on underneath, and to take the time to express your expectations, not with the intent of making them be fulfilled, but just to be known, so you and your husband can get to a point where you can work on the same page, as opposed to trying to drag each other along to a place that you don't really want to go. One of the last things that I'd like to address is the fact of having your family at risk. If his behaviors continue to place you at risk, it might be the time to set a Christ-centered boundary. Now, a Christ-centered boundary is something that we at the National Institute of Marriage educate couples on with the intent of providing a way for them to learn what it is to set a boundary that is Christ-centered or God-honoring. Anything that you set, like a boundary, that is meant to control your husband's behavior will only be perceived and experienced as that. Rather, we ask you to consider setting a boundary with the intent of being able to keep your heart open to your husband. So, what this might look like is saying, if you do not contribute to the family, it creates a hardship for us. We continue to go deeper in debt, and that is really scary for me. So, what I'm asking, and what I really think that what needs to happen, is that we eliminate the credit card spending, that we cannot live off of credit cards. It might mean that you do not contribute, or you do not enter into any type of purchases that would be considered luxury items. Now, this would be very difficult for your children, of course, and maybe even yourself. But again, it's about keeping your heart open. If you just address the problem by just working harder or working more, you will end up more exhausted, tired, and inaccessible to your family. And in the end, what you don't want will actually happen, and that is your children will suffer. They may have material things, but they won't have access to you, and that will be very sad. That as a last resort, you might consider, like you have already been considering, a separation. But I really want to warn you that this would be used as a last option, not as a threat, but as an option to bring perspective to the condition of your financial state. Again, if it's with the intent of controlling your husband or making him do something, he might pacify you for a while, but in the end, it will probably return to its typical state, and that is him being back on the couch and watching video games. A temporary separation can be powerful, but again, use it as a last resort to communicate how distressing this circumstance is for you and how painful it is for the family in general.